Welcome to this deep dive, into the world of Arcane. So get ready to explore all the dynamics of love and loyalty. I think this show really kind of turns those ideas on their head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. Arcane doesn't really present love and loyalty as just like simple feel-good concepts, right? It really
Hmm.
digs into the messy reality, showing how these emotions, these powerful emotions, can be like sources of incredible strength, but also devastating conflict at the same time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we're not just skimming the surface. We're really going deep. We've got a whole stack of sources that go deep into these themes. And, we're really using all the characters' relationships to unpack what love and loyalty mean, especially in a world that's as gritty and morally gray as Arcane.
Yeah, right from the start. The show just throws you into this like whirlwind of emotions, Vi and Jinx, right? Their bond as sisters is one of the most powerful forces, I think, in the entire series, but it's also incredibly complicated.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how can a bond like that survive years of separation,
Mm.
trauma, even, Jinx's descent into
Well,
madness.
that's what's so fascinating about it, right? It's like V's love for Jinx, or Powder as she was known back then. It's absolutely unwavering. It's like it fuels everything she does, even when she's faced with Jinx's like increasingly unpredictable behavior, and sometimes even destructive behavior.
Yeah. And on the other side,
Hmm.
Jinx is really struggling with this feeling of betrayal, right? This intense feeling of betrayal.
Yeah.
Like Vivi abandoned her. And especially after what happened with Vander and the explosion, it really fueled her transformation into the Jinx we see in the show.
Absolutely. And that's where things get even more interesting, right? Because while V is trying to pull Jinx back from the brink, Silco steps in and he offers her a different kind of love and acceptance.
Yeah, he kind of becomes this, I don't know, this twisted father figure showering Jinx with praise and validation, even as he's low key encouraging her more destructive tendencies, right? It really blurs the lines between genuine care and manipulation, don't you think?
It does. Makes you wonder what kind of impact does that have on a young, vulnerable person like Jinx, especially when she's grappling with so much trauma and loss.
It's almost like she's caught in this tug of war, between these two really powerful figures. They represent very different versions of love and loyalty. On one side, you have V with this unconditional, familial love that's been there from the beginning. And then you have Silco offering this dark but undeniably potent mix of acceptance and control.
And that's, I think, a really crucial point here because it raises the question, can loyalty be misplaced? And what are the consequences when it's rooted in a dynamic that's as complex and potentially harmful as the one between Silco and Jinx?
Yeah, and that dynamic's a great jumping off point to look at them specifically because their relationship really challenges, I think, our understanding of love and loyalty.
Yeah.
Like what happens when those feelings are born from shared pain and a hunger for power?
I think that's where things get really intriguing, because on one hand, Silco's love for Jinx, it seems genuine. He sees potential in her, a brilliance that other people just overlook, and he fosters that, even if it manifests in destructive ways.
And he gives her this sense of belonging that she's clearly craving, right? Especially in a world that's constantly trying to push her down or lock her away.
Exactly. But at the same time, he is undeniably manipulating her too. He's shaping her into this weapon to be used in his schemes, right? And it raises the question, is it really love? If it fuels someone's descent into darkness.
It's a question that really gets to the heart of what I think Arcane's trying to explore. It's not afraid to show us this dark side of love and loyalty, how these powerful emotions can be twisted and used for destructive purposes.
Yeah, it doesn't shy away from showing how our past experiences can shape our understanding of love and loyalty, especially those rooted in trauma and loss.
So we've talked about family
Mhm.
and the blurred lines between love and control. But how do these things, love and loyalty, how do they play out in a different type of relationship? Like the bond between friends who share a common goal.
Well, that's where Jace and Victor come in. Their relationship is, I think it's a fascinating study in the power of collaboration and shared ambition.
Yeah.
They're both incredibly brilliant, driven individuals, and their loyalty to each other really fuels their work on Hextech, their groundbreaking work.
Oh yeah, early on you can really see how much they value each other's intellect
Hmm.
and perspective. They kind of push each other to think differently, to break boundaries.
But as with all relationships in Arcane, theirs faces some serious challenges. As Jace becomes increasingly entangled with Piltover's elite and the politics, the political machinations of the council, Victor's focus shifts to his own mortality. And this desperate search for a cure for his illness.
Which is a struggle that really makes you feel for him. It's like
Yeah.
he's literally fighting against time, right?
Yeah.
And his desperation leads him down this path, a path that Jace really struggles to understand.
And that's really where the conflict comes in, right? You have Jace, who feels immense pressure to stay true to his ideals, and his newfound responsibility is to Piltover. And then you have Victor. He's consumed by his desire to overcome his limitations, even if it means going against everything that Jace believes in.
Yeah, it's like this classic dilemma, isn't it? Loyalty to a person versus loyalty to a cause, or even to yourself. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to make a choice, like between your friend's needs and your own goals? It's kind of what Jace and Victor are dealing with, and it's something that I think resonates with a lot of people.
It really does. It's a timeless human conflict, right? And Arcane brings it to life in a way that's heartbreaking and also thought-provoking, but amidst all this conflict and moral ambiguity, there are also characters who represent a different side of loyalty, a loyalty that's rooted in hope and the desire to build a better future.
Echo, right. His story is a great example of that. He's so devoted to Zahn and his community, and that love really fuels everything he does, especially as the leader of the Firelights.
Yeah, and what's so compelling about Echo is that his loyalty isn't about personal gain or blind obedience to some, authority figure. It comes from a really deep sense of responsibility and this, fierce desire to protect the vulnerable, especially the kids who are caught in the crossfire of Piltover and Zahn's conflict.
You see that so clearly in the show, the way he puts himself on the line again and again to protect those kids from all the violence and the exploitation in the Undercity.
And he's not just reacting to the problems around him, right? He's actively trying to create a better future for Zahn, even if it means, going up against impossible odds. Remember that scene where he's showing off his hoverboard to those kids? He's not just giving them a cool toy, he's giving them a symbol of hope, a vision of what's possible if they dare to imagine a different reality.
Oh, I love that scene. It's so good. It really speaks to the power of belief, and how even in the darkest of places, that little spark of hope can be so transformative.
Absolutely. And speaking of, navigating these complex landscapes, let's talk about Mil Medarda. Her story adds another layer to this whole conversation about love and loyalty, especially when you look at how those emotions play out in politics.
Yeah, politics. Because let's be real, politics is rarely about straightforward choices, right? Or black and white morality. It's a world where your desires often clash with your obligations to your family, to a cause, even to an entire nation.
Yeah, and Mel is the perfect illustration of that. On the one hand, she's genuinely drawn to Jace, and the relationship feels so real, full of warmth and mutual respect.
You can really see it. Their connection goes beyond just physical attraction
or
political maneuvering. They really seem to enjoy each other's company. They respect each other's intellect.
Exactly. But at the same time, she's bound by her loyalty to her family, a family that has this long history of manipulation. And they're pretty ruthless when it comes to securing power.
So it's like she's constantly walking this tightrope, right? Trying to balance her feelings for Jace with the expectations and demands of her family.
And that struggle makes you think about the compromises we all make in the name of loyalty, right? How much are we willing to sacrifice? How far are we willing to bend our own values to stay true to the people we feel obligated to?
Yeah, it's a question that I think a lot of us have probably wrestled with, whether it's a demanding boss or a difficult family member.
Yeah.
Or even just trying to figure out where we stand on an issue. It's tough. Those lines between personal desire and loyalty can get really blurry.
They really can. And that's what's so brilliant about Arcane. It doesn't offer any easy answers. It just presents these characters with all their flaws, all their contradictions, and it lets us wrestle with the messy reality of their choices.
So we've talked about Jinx, Jace, Mel, and we take a step back and look at all these relationships. A key theme kind of emerges, right? Love and loyalty are rarely straightforward in Arcane. They're messy, they're conflicted. And they often lead to these really difficult choices with consequences that, you just don't see coming.
Think about Jinx, right? She's torn between the love she still has for Vey and the acceptance she finds with Silco. Or Jace. He's grappling with the implications of his work and the potential damage it could do to his friendship with Victor. And then you have Mel, trying to figure out Noxian politics, while also staying true to her own heart.
It's a lot. And none of these characters are villains, right? Not in the traditional sense anyway. They're all driven by their own desires, their own understanding of love and loyalty. And I think that's what makes their story so interesting.
It's because in the end, they're all just trying to find their place in a world that's full of conflict,
Uh,
world where good and evil aren't always so clear. And that's something we can all relate to, even if we're not facing, magic or crazy politicians.
Totally.
Hmm.
But even with all the conflict and the heartbreak, Arcane reminds us that love and loyalty can also be sources of strength and resilience.
Think about her unwavering determination to save Jinx, no matter what. That's powerful. That's familial love.
Don't forget about Silco, though. His love for Jinx, as messed up as it was, it drove him to do some pretty crazy things,
It
right?
really did.
I mean, he challenged everything, built his power from nothing. And in the end, he really changed Zon forever.
Yeah, it really shows you the power of those emotions, love and loyalty. Even when they're unconventional, they can drive us to do incredible things, make sacrifices, fight for what we believe in, even when it seems impossible.
It's like Arcane is saying, love and loyalty are these like basic things about being human. They shape us.
Mm.
But they're not always simple. Sometimes they're messy or complicated or even dangerous.
And that's what makes the show so interesting. It doesn't shy away from that, the raw human side of emotions,
Right? It shows us everything, the beauty, the pain, the sacrifice.
and how those things can be used to create or
Really.
to destroy.
It's like the show is holding up a mirror in a way. It makes us ask those same questions about ourselves. What are we willing to fight for? Who are we loyal to? And what are we risking when we make those choices?
Those are questions that everyone has to deal with at some point, right? It's not just in Arcane.
Yeah, we see this in our own lives, our relationships, our communities.
Every decision we make.
And I think one of the things I like most about this show is that it doesn't give you easy answers.
It really doesn't.
It just gives us these complicated characters with all their flaws, their contradictions, and then it says, okay, now what do you think?
It makes you think critically, question your assumptions, consider different points of view. It asks, what does it mean to love? What does it mean to be loyal? How do you deal with all that in a world that's always pushing and pulling on you?
So we've talked a lot about the darker side of things, how love and loyalty can be twisted. But I think Arcane is also hopeful in a way.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
shows how powerful those emotions can be.
Even in the middle of all the fighting and the heartbreak, there are these moments of true connection, moments of selflessness, these reminders that love and loyalty can change everything.
Like V, she never gives up on Jinx, even when everyone else has. That's family.
And Echo, building a better future for Zahn, even though it could cost him everything.
They're flawed, all these characters, but they show us that even when things are bad, love and loyalty can give us strength, hope, keep us going.
That's what makes it art, It doesn't hide from the hard stuff. It doesn't try to tell you how to feel. It just shows you what it means to be human.
So, as we finish up, think about your own life. Who are you devoted to? What would you sacrifice for them? And are those relationships helping you grow or holding you back?
Arcane asks us all to make those choices, I think. And the results, well, they can change your whole life.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Arcane. We've seen how love and loyalty can be powerful, confusing, inspiring, and sometimes really complicated. We'll leave you to think about it all.